babies. That is not bullshit. It's true.
Have you ever wondered why the biggest names in Hollywood seem to suddenly vanish the moment the truth starts knocking on the door? We've all seen the smiling faces, the daytime dancing, and the brand of kindness that felt almost too perfect to be real. But what if that smile wasn't just a brand? What if it was a mask for something so dark, so biologically disturbing, that it would make the Epstein files look like a bedtime story? Right now, a storm is brewing in the hills of Montecito, and it isn't coming from the tabloids. It's coming from inside the house. Portia de Rossi, the woman who stood by Ellen DeGeneres for nearly 2 decades, has reportedly decided that the weight of the secret is finally too heavy to carry. She isn't just talking about a messy breakup or a toxic workplace. She's allegedly pulling back the curtain on a system of vitality extraction that connects the highest levels of entertainment to a network that most people are too terrified to even name.
She believed consumption was transformation, that youth could be taken in, that vitality could be absorbed. She talked about ancient rites, about elites throughout history who understood what the masses didn't. There was a separate kitchen on her property, stainless steel, private entrance, no security cameras inside.
To understand where this story begins, you have to look at the walls Ellen built around her life. Billionaire status buys you more than just privacy. It buys you a fortress. For years, former staff members have whispered about the Montecito protocols. They described a life where certain wings of the estate were off limits even to the people paid to clean them. But the most disturbing detail involves a separate industrial-grade kitchen. This wasn't a place for baking cookies. It was described as a windowless stainless steel facility with its own private entrance and, most importantly, 0 security cameras. Why would a woman with access to the world's greatest private chefs insist on a kitchen that no one, not even her most trusted assistants, could enter? According to insiders, the deliveries that arrived at that kitchen didn't come from organic food suppliers. They arrived in unmarked white vans, always in the dead of night, and were handled personally by Ellen herself. But that wasn't the whole story.
There was a separate kitchen on her property, stainless steel, private entrance, no security cameras inside.
We've all marveled at how certain celebrities never seem to age. We tell ourselves it's just good genes or expensive cream, but the reality being described behind closed doors is far more clinical. Portia reportedly began noticing a change in the atmosphere of their home around late 2019. It wasn't just the late-night visitors, it was the way those visitors talked. They spoke of consumption as transformation. They spoke of ancient rites and the idea that youth isn't something you preserve, but something you take. In elite circles, there's a persistent rumor about treatments that go far beyond plastic surgery. We're talking about the extraction of biological material from the young to fuel the old. Caviezel, the man who famously portrayed the ultimate figure of sacrifice, has been shouting from the rooftops about this for years. He's warned that what the public calls conspiracy is actually a multi-billion-dollar black market for vitality. And according to the flight logs, Ellen's name wasn't just a random entry, it was a recurring character.
She believed consumption was transformation, that youth could be taken in, that vitality could be absorbed. She talked about ancient rites, about elites throughout history who understood what the masses didn't.
When the Epstein files were finally unsealed, the world looked for names, but they missed the context. It wasn't just about the parties on Little St. James. Witnesses are now describing a medical facility on the island that looked more like a high-tech lab than a vacation spot. This facility was reportedly equipped with advanced refrigeration and extraction units. The theory? That the island was a harvesting point. High-profile individuals weren't just going there for the crimes the media focuses on. They were going there for rejuvenation protocols that aren't legal in any civilized country. Sources claim that Ellen's interest in the island was purely functional. She was obsessed with staying at the top of her game, obsessed with the energy that made her a daytime icon. But the ingredients for that energy had a horrifying source. And what happened next would shock everyone who thought they knew the truth about Hollywood's golden couple.
Ellen DeGeneres is named in the Epstein documents, and that part is real. Her name appears in the broader index of over 300 high-profile individuals that show up across the investigative materials. Flight logs, communications, third-party interviews, peripheral records.
One of the biggest questions people ask is, if this is true, why hasn't anyone spoken up? The answer lies in a psychological mechanism designed to ensure total silence. It's called the complicity trap. Imagine you're invited to a private dinner. You're surrounded by icons, Oprah, the A-listers, the titans of industry. You're served a wellness booster, a vitality shot that everyone else is taking. You trust them, so you participate. Only later, once the ingredients are revealed, do you realize what you've done. By then, it's too late. To expose them is to expose yourself. You are bound to the group by shared guilt. This is how the circle of kindness allegedly maintained its perimeter. Portia, however, was the outlier. Sources suggest she was the one person who refused to participate, even as she watched the person she loved disappear into the ritual. This refusal created a fracture that no amount of PR could fix, but she isn't the first person to try and pull on this thread.
Just go to bed, wear white, just wear everything is white. Well, drink the water, take the herb.
Long before Portia was reportedly talking to investigators, there was Heche. In the late 90s, Anne and Ellen were the most visible couple in the world. But after they split, Anne's life took a turn that the media mocked as Iraq. What they didn't report was that Anne was allegedly working on a documentary called Children of the Machine. This project was intended to blow the lid off the very networks we're discussing today, the systems of trafficking that feed the elite's obsession with youth. For years, Anne tried to process what she had seen during her time in that inner circle. Then, in August 2022, just as the conversation around these networks was reaching a fever pitch, Anne's life ended in a fiery, high-speed crash that left more questions than answers. To many insiders, it wasn't an accident. It was a message, a reminder of what happens to those who tried to break the circle. And what happened next would shock everyone.
Crash wasn't random. It was a hit to shut her up. And the poison started way before, in her relationship with Ellen.
Breaking news from the latest 2026 Epstein file dumps. Ellen DeGeneres has been exposed as the key link connecting Jeffrey Epstein's infamous island network to Hollywood's hidden world of ritualistic practices, including the consumption of human flesh in ancient-style ceremonies. But the revelations go deeper, tying directly to her relationship with her ex-partner, actress Heche, who died in that suspicious car crash back in August 2022 while investigating Hollywood's child trafficking pipelines. Anne was determined to expose it all. She confronted Ellen with evidence, and months later, she was gone. Now investigators have confirmed that after Anne's death, Ellen pulled strings to claim her body, storing it in a mansion freezer like some kind of relic. Over the years, Ellen allegedly consumed parts of Anne in deliberate occult ceremonies. So if you haven't heard, there's
5,000 children crossed the border this last year and disappeared. Where did they disappear?
85,000 children. Just gone. No records, no follow-up, no answers from anyone in power. And Ellen DeGeneres' name is in the files of the man who ran the island where some of those answers might be. But here's the part that makes this entire system so difficult to expose. Because even if you wanted to come forward, even if you wanted to speak, there's a mechanism in place designed to ensure you never do. Once you consume it, you're bound. That's not just a social dynamic, that's an engineered trap. Think about how this works in practice. You're invited to a private estate, you're told it's a dinner party, you're surrounded by people you trust. Oprah, Ellen, other A-listers. You're served something, you consume it. You don't ask questions because everyone else is doing it. It's framed as a wellness treatment, a vitality boost, something the elite have access to that the public doesn't. And then, later, you find out what you actually consumed. At that point, you can never speak, because if you expose them, you expose yourself. You become complicit the moment you participate.
Once you shared that secret, whatever you believed you'd consumed, you are bound to the group. No one betrays a circle that could destroy them.
And that's exactly how Ellen allegedly kept Portia silent for years. Not through threats, not through violence, but through shared guilt. Except Portia reportedly never consumed it. She refused. And that refusal, according to sources, is what eventually caused the fracture in their relationship. Because the one rule of the circle is participation, and Portia broke it.
To understand why this isn't just a Hollywood rumor, you have to look at the money. This isn't just about rituals, it's about a new frontier of science. Silicon Valley billionaires have spent the last decade pouring hundreds of millions into parabiosis, the study of transferring young blood into older subjects to reverse aging. Companies like Ambrosia have openly offered these transfusions to anyone who can afford the 5-figure price tag. While the mainstream media treats it as a quirky billionaire hobby, the black market version of this science is what Jim Caviezel is talking about. When you combine the legal research with the 85,000 children who go missing at the border every single year, a terrifying picture starts to emerge. A picture of a system that views the most vulnerable as a resource for the most powerful. And according to the latest whispers, Portia has provided the evidence that links the Montecito kitchen directly to this global supply chain.
You know they eat babies. That is not bullshit. It's true.
Jim Caviezel didn't stutter, he didn't hedge, he said it plainly. They eat babies. And whether you interpret that literally or symbolically, the message is the same. The people at the top of this system consume the young to preserve themselves. Hundreds, maybe thousands.
Why is Portia coming forward now? Because the octopus is losing its grip. For decades, these networks relied on the total control of information, but the Epstein unsealing was the first crack in the dam. Once one person of Portia's stature goes on the record, the complicity mechanism fails. If she can prove she didn't participate, she is no longer bound by the shared guilt. She becomes the most dangerous person in Hollywood, a witness who knows the how, the where, and most importantly, the who. She is reportedly naming names that go far beyond Ellen, names that include daytime titans and the architects of the industry itself. This is the head of the octopus that Caviezel spoke about. You can't just cut off an arm, you have to take the head.
I know that the saints in heaven wish to be on this earth right now because there are far more people on this earth than there's ever been. And there are far more souls to save right now than there ever has ever been.
Jim Caviezel believes we are at a hinge point in history, a moment when the truth, no matter how dark, is finally coming to light. And Portia de Rossi may be the catalyst. Because once she speaks publicly, once she goes on record with what she saw, what Ellen told her, what happened on Epstein Island, the entire house of cards collapses. The elite circles that have protected each other for decades won't be able to hold the line anymore. The complicity mechanism breaks the moment one insider chooses truth over self-preservation. And according to sources, Portia has already made that choice. Let's summarize what we're looking at here. Ellen DeGeneres' name appears in the Epstein files multiple times. Witnesses describe Ellen participating in rituals involving consumption, rituals designed to preserve youth and bind participants through shared guilt. Ellen had a private kitchen on her estate with no security cameras where she personally prepared meals that staff were never allowed to see. Portia de Rossi reportedly witnessed these preparations and refused to participate, fracturing her relationship with Ellen. Heche, Ellen's ex-girlfriend, was working on a documentary exposing child trafficking in Hollywood's elite circles and died in a suspicious car crash before it could be released. Jim Caviezel has been warning the public for years that Hollywood's most powerful people are involved in a system that consumes the young to preserve the old. And now, Portia de Rossi is allegedly cooperating with investigators and preparing to go public.
As we watch the walls of the age of kindness crumble, we have to ask ourselves, how much were we willing to overlook for the sake of entertainment? The story of Ellen and Portia isn't just about a celebrity scandal. It's a reflection of a deeper, more disturbing reality about the price of power. If the allegations are true, then the vitality we saw on our TV screens every day was paid for in a currency of human suffering that is too dark for most to comprehend. Accountability isn't just coming, it's already at the door. The Epstein files were the beginning, but Portia's testimony could be the avalanche that finally cleanses the hills of Hollywood. The question is, once the truth is fully exposed, will we ever be able to look at the elites the same way again? Or will we realize that the monsters we were told to fear in fairy tales have been hiding in plain sight, smiling at us from the screen all along? Stay locked in, because this house of cards is about to fall, and the truth that emerges will be anything but kind.
Is just the beginning of this whole thing. It's an 8-armed octopus, and if you take just out, that arm will grow back. You have to take the head.